Ladies and gentlemen, get ready for Mandrews Weekly Wrestling Lockdown Quiz!
Mandrews Weekly Wrestling Lockdown Quiz! Yeah, let's have some fun!
How are we doing, everyone? Is everybody having a good Wednesday? I just had a slice of cake and a cup of tea, so I have all the energy in the world for another quiz. Every week I seem to struggle with new ideas for rounds, but everybody commenting in the comment section below is helping a lot, so keep it up. And please, if you haven't already, click subscribe. I want to up those subscriptions, want to be making more content for you guys to see. Anyway, let's get on to the first round of the 6th quiz that I have done now. Week 6. First round is the wrestling in video games round. I'm going to ask you 5 questions either about wrestling video games or wrestling related things in other video games. Starting with question number 1. Which wrestler appears in the game Saints Row 4? I'm not a gamer at all, so I had no idea this was a thing. I'll repeat that one again. Which wrestler appears in the game Saints Row 4? Question number 2. What was the first wrestling video game in history? The first wrestling video game ever. I'll repeat that again. What was the first wrestling video game in history? Question number 3. A similar question here. What was the first wrestling video game for the PlayStation 1? This one's a little bit easier. I'll repeat this one again. What was the first wrestling game for the PlayStation 1? Question number 4. Which famous cartoon family had their own wrestling video game? This game was sick as well. Which famous cartoon family had their own wrestling video game? And question number 5. 4 wrestlers appeared on the front cover of the WCW NWO Revenge game. They were Kevin Nash, Hulk Hogan, Goldberg, and who else? Who was the 4th person who appeared on the front cover for WCW NWO Revenge? How well do you guys know your video games, and not just normal ones? How well do you know your wrestling in video games? Let's go through the answers, starting with question number 1. Which wrestler appears in the game Saints Row 4? The answer is Roddy Piper. Question number 2. What was the first wrestling video game in history? And the answer is Tag Team Wrestling, that came out in 1983. It also might have had a different name in Japan, so if you're playing this quiz in Japan, give yourself a point. Question number 3. What was the first wrestling video game for the PlayStation 1? And the answer is WWF WrestleMania the arcade game. Question number 4. Which famous cartoon family had their own wrestling video game? And the answer is The Simpsons. Anyone remember that game? The Simpsons wrestling game on PS1? That was badass. And question number 5. 4 wrestlers appeared on the front cover of the WCW NWO Revenge game. It was Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, Goldberg, and who was the last person? The answer is Raven. Right, tally up your scores. How well did you guys do? Anyone got 5 out of 5? Some of those were easy, some of them were a bit harder. But now we're going on to round 2. And this week we're not having a photo round, we're actually having a video round. This week we are having the first Wrestling Moves video round. So I'm going to show you guys footage of various wrestling moves. You have to tell me what the name of that wrestling move is. Now this could get a little bit complicated. I know there's various move names for various moves. I've tried to pick moves that only have 1 or 2 well-known names. If you know multiple names for the moves, feel free to write down 1 or 2 answers, I guess. Starting with number 1. What is this move? Now that move has tons of names, but you should know the one that I'm thinking of, the main one. Video number 2. What is this move? That one's a bit more obscure, but that move is sick. Video number 3. What is this move? So you have to get 1 of those very well-known names. I'm only going to give answers for 2 names to that one. Video number 4, what is this move? Now this next one is a reversal of the last move that I showed you, and it's probably the hardest one in this round. Anyone know what that one's called? And lastly, number 5, what is this move? Alright guys, let's go through the answers for round 2, the wrestling move video round. Question number 1, I asked you what was this move? This is the Michinoku Driver 2. I will give you a point if you said Michinoku Driver. You haven't got to include the 2. I think if we really get to the nitty gritty, it's the Michinoku Driver 2, but we all know it as the Michinoku Driver, so you get a point for either. Anyway, question number 2. I asked you what was this move? This is the Ocean Cyclone Suplex. Question number 3, I asked you what was this move? Now I'm only giving you a point here if you got Code Red or Yoshi Tonic. If you wrote down Sunset Flip Powerbomb, you don't get a point. I don't care if they say that on WWE commentary, you do not get a point. It's the Code Red or the Yoshi Tonic. Question number 4, I said this was a reversal to the Code Red or Yoshi Tonic. This is the Mad Scientist Bomb. And question number 5, what is this move? That is Chaos Theory, made famous by Doug Williams. Alright guys, tally up your scores. What did you get out of 5? I feel like a few people are going to argue with me on this round in the comments, but go ahead, teach me something. Have I screwed up? Are they called something else? Who knows? Write in the comments below, tell me how you feel about my wrestling move video round. Alright, let's go on to round number 3. This week it is the British wrestling round. All these questions are going to be about British wrestling, funnily enough. So, let's start off with question number 1. Which 2 British wrestlers faced off against each other at CZW's Best of the Best 2 tournament in 2002? So I'll repeat that one. Which 2 British wrestlers faced off against each other at CZW's Best of the Best 2 tournament in 2002? Question number 2. What year was the last broadcasted episode of World of Sport? This one's a bit harder unless you know your British wrestling history. I'll repeat that again. What year was the last broadcasted episode of World of Sport? Question number 3. Who was the first ever Progress Wrestling champion? This one's a bit more current, so any modern day British indie wrestling fan should know this one. I'll say it once more. Who was the first ever Progress Wrestling champion? Question number 4. Which British wrestler wrestled as Black Tiger 1 in Japan? I'll say that once more. Which British wrestler wrestled as Black Tiger 1 in Japan? And question number 5. Which British wrestler feuded with Hulk Hogan in WCW in 1996? So once more, which British wrestler feuded with Hulk Hogan in WCW in 1996? Alright guys, let's go through the answers for the 3rd round, the British wrestling round. Question number 1. Which 2 British wrestlers faced off against each other in CZW's Best of the Best 2 in 2002? It was Johnny Storm and Jody Fleisch in what became a very important match for British wrestling. Great match, go check it out right now, even if you've seen it before. Awesome match. Question number 2. What year was the last broadcasted episode of World of Sport? And the answer is 1985. Question number 3. Who was the first ever Progress Wrestling champion? The answer is Nathan Cruz. Question number 4. Which British wrestler wrestled as Black Tiger 1 in Japan? The answer is Mark Rollerball Rocco. And finally, question number 5. Which British wrestler feuded with Hulk Hogan in WCW in 1996? The answer is Loch Ness, otherwise known as Giant Haystacks. You get a point for either of them. Right, so tally up your scores. How well did you guys do in the British wrestling round? Has anyone got 15 out of 15 this week? I feel like there's been a few curveballs and a few hard ones this week, but it's a little bit easier than last week maybe. Tell me what you think in the comments below. But you still have one question left to get right, and that is the weekly special guest wrestler question. So I'm going to pass you over to Danny Luna for this week's special guest wrestler question.
Hi everyone, Danny Luna here, and today we are talking about the defining feud between Manami Toyota and Aja Kong. Now, between the years of 1994 and 1996, these women did battle 4 times, beginning at the VTOP Women's Tournament and ending in matches over the WWWA World title. Now my question for you is, how many of these matches did Manami Toyota actually win?
There you have it from Danny Luna. I'll repeat that question again. Manami Toyota and Aja Kong had 4 singles matches during their feud. How many did Toyota win? And the answer is...
The answer is twice. They ended this feud at 2 apiece.
And the answer is 2. Alright guys, tally up your scores. How many did you get out of 16? Have you done better than last week? Have you done worse than last week? Comment below with what you got and what your score was. I'm not sure how many more weeks I'm going to be doing of these quizzes, but we'll see what happens with the lockdown. We'll see how long I'll have to keep doing these. However, I'm having loads of fun doing these, and I hope you guys are having fun taking them as well. Make sure you guys are staying safe, washing your hands, keeping your distance from everyone, and thank you guys once again for taking part. I will hopefully see you again next Wednesday for another edition of Mandrews Weekly Wrestling Lockdown Quiz!
Mandrews Weekly Wrestling Lockdown Quiz! Yeah, let's have some fun!